Sir, I'm going to need you to move. That's my seat. The voice cut through the pre-flight chatter like nails on a chalkboard. I looked up from my Sudoku puzzle to find Gloria Mson, the head of our Pine Hollow Villas HOA, looming over me in row 1A. First class. Boarding hadn't even finished, and already she was making a scene. I adjusted my aviators and kept my voice calm. Ma'am, I think you're mistaken. Gloria scoffed so loudly that several passengers turned to stare. Mistaken? I'm Platinum Ultra Level. That's my window seat. She actually used the word level, like she'd unlocked some achievement in a video game. The woman was wearing a velour tracksuit that screamed, "I demand to speak to your manager," and she was practically vibrating with indignation. She turned to the flight attendant with a smirk that could curdle milk. Move him. The flight attendant, bless her professional heart, leaned in close to Gloria and whispered something. I caught just enough to hear the words, "That's the pilot." The cabin went completely silent. You could have heard a peanut packet drop. I couldn't help myself. I grinned. The descent of Gloria Mson had officially begun. Let me back up a bit. My name is Marcus Deleon, and at 45 years old, I've learned that the secret to surviving neighborhood drama is simple. Don't engage. I'm an off-duty commercial pilot and Air Force veteran who recently made the questionable decision to move into Pine Hollow Villas, a gated suburban community where people actually measure the height of your grass with rulers and debate the appropriate seasonal rotation of door wreaths like it's a matter of national security. I bought the smallest house on the block, a modest 3-bedroom that suited my bachelor lifestyle perfectly. I parked my equally modest Tesla in the driveway, kept my lawn at a respectable 2.5 inches, and committed the cardinal sin of not attending the monthly porch aesthetic sync-up meeting. Apparently, this was seen as an act of war. Gloria Mson, our HOA president and part-time neighborhood menace, took my absence as a personal affront. In her twisted logic, I was hostile non-compliant, which was HOA speak for didn't immediately grovel when I knocked on his door at 7 a.m. on a Saturday to discuss mailbox uniformity standards. The woman had been gunning for me ever since. And when she overheard me mention at the community pool that I'd be flying to Boston later that week, something clicked in her entitled brain. She actually used her accumulated airline points to upgrade herself to first class on my flight. Her plan, as far as I could piece together, was to corner me about unresolved community issues at 30,000 feet where I couldn't escape. She just didn't know who exactly she was confronting. The campaign against me had started days earlier with a flurry of violation notices that would have been hilarious if they weren't so petty. First, she cited me for neutral-toned mulch, claiming it was visually apathetic and brought down the aesthetic value of the entire cul-de-sac. I didn't even know mulch could be apathetic. Then came the accusation that I was operating an unauthorized airfield on my property. The supposed airfield was my mailbox, which happened to have a small decorative plane on top that spun in the wind. According to Gloria, it was signaling to other aircraft and creating a flight hazard. The crown jewel of her accusations was that my low flyovers were disrupting the neighborhood squirrels and causing them psychological distress. I'm not making this up. She actually submitted a 3-page document about squirrel mental health, complete with blurry photos of allegedly traumatized rodents. But Gloria didn't stop at official HOA harassment. She went full propaganda mode with mailers that looked like they'd been designed by someone's conspiracy theorist uncle. The headline read, "I.S. your neighbor spying from the sky" in bold red letters, complete with clip art of drones and what I can only describe as vaguely Cuban imagery. I'm half Puerto Rican, but apparently, Gloria couldn't tell the difference. Through it all, I just smiled and went about my business. I'd survived ejector seat malfunctions, emergency landings, and Air Force budget cuts that made Congress look generous. Gloria Mson was background noise, like the hum of an engine you learn to tune out. But when she marched onto my commercial flight in that ridiculous velour tracksuit, spotted me in seat 1A, and demanded I move, well, that's when things got interesting. Gloria's voice got louder with each word, attracting the attention of every passenger within earshot. This man is committing identity theft. He's posing as airline personnel to get seat upgrades. I know a fraud when I see one. The other first-class passengers were now openly staring, their expressions ranging from confused to concerned. A baby somewhere in coach began crying preemptively, as if sensing the storm that was brewing. The flight crew tried to reason with her, speaking in those calm, measured tones they teach in de-escalation training. "Ma'am, we need you to take your assigned seat so we can prepare for departure." But Gloria was having none of it. She actually pulled out a laminated HOA badge, something I'm 90% sure she had made at her local office supply store. "I'm HOA," she declared, waving the badge like it was an FBI credential. "I have authority." That's when I stood up slowly, placed my coffee down on the tray table, and looked at the flight attendant. "You want to handle this, or should I?" The flight attendant's smile could have powered a small city. She picked up the PA microphone with the kind of glee usually reserved for announcing free drinks. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain Marcus Deleon, your pilot for today's flight to Boston." The gasps rippled through the cabin like a wave. Someone actually dropped their phone. The whispers started immediately, a chorus of "Did she really just and oh my God and someone's filming this, right?" Gloria's face went through a remarkable transformation. First came confusion, then disbelief, then a shade of red I'd previously only seen on fire trucks. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no sound coming out. And then, because the universe has a sense of humor, my co-pilot emerged from the cockpit holding my captain's hat. He placed it on my head with the solemnity of a coronation, giving Gloria a little salute as he did so. The hat was placed. The die was cast. Gloria Mson's reign of terror had just hit severe turbulence. What happened next was both swift and satisfying. Gloria was removed from the aircraft, though politely and professionally. The airline staff were absolute professionals, but you could see the satisfaction in their eyes as they escorted her off the plane. She screamed the entire way about conspiracies, seat-stealing cartels, and something she called aviation privilege, which I'm pretty sure isn't a real thing. As they led her past my seat, she pointed at me with a shaking finger. "This isn't over, Deleon. The HOA will hear about this. I have connections." I tipped my captain's hat to her. "Have a pleasant day, ma'am. I understand you've been rebooked in row 31. Middle seat, I believe." The truth was even better. Row 31, seat B, sandwiched between a bachelorette party that had clearly started celebrating early and a man traveling with an emotional support chinchilla. I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried. I flew that plane to Boston with the kind of smooth precision that comes from 20 years of experience and the deep satisfaction of cosmic justice. I even managed to avoid most of the turbulence, though I may have let us hit one small pocket just as we were passing over Gloria's connecting flight path. Pure coincidence, of course. By the time we landed, Gloria's airplane meltdown had gone viral. Someone had filmed the entire confrontation, and the hashtag HOA versus pilot was trending within 3 hours. The video had everything the internet loves: entitled behavior, instant karma, and a man in uniform staying impossibly calm while chaos erupted around him. There were memes within hours. My favorite showed Gloria's shocked face with the caption, "When you realize the HOA badge doesn't work at 30,000 feet. Back at Pine Hollow Villas, Gloria tried desperately to do damage control. She called an emergency HOA meeting, claiming she had only been concerned for national security and the safety of the passengers. She actually used the phrase, "If you see something, say something," as if confronting me about my legitimate seat assignment was some kind of patriotic duty. But while Gloria was scrambling to save face, I was preparing my counterstrike. I hand-delivered notarized letters to every single resident in Pine Hollow Villas. The letters were simple, professional, and devastating. They invited everyone to the first-ever HOA board re-election BBQ at the community center. Free brisket, all the sides you could eat, and bring your own lawn chairs. The kicker? I included screenshots from the viral video, just in case anyone hadn't seen Gloria's performance. The turnout was incredible. People who hadn't attended an HOA meeting in years showed up for free food and front-row seats to Gloria's downfall. I manned the grill myself, flipping burgers in my aviators while Gloria stood at a podium trying to explain why following a neighbor onto a flight was actually a form of community outreach. When it came time for the vote, the results were brutal and unanimous. Gloria was voted out of her position as HOA president. Even her own husband abstained from voting, which in marriage terms is basically a vote against. Someone nominated me as a joke, but then people started actually voting for it, and before I knew it, I was the new HOA president of Pine Hollow Villas. I accepted the position while still wearing my barbecue apron, spatula in one hand, raising my beer with the other. My first act as president? I announced the new HOA policies effective immediately. No surveillance gnomes or any yard decorations designed primarily for spying on neighbors. All complaints must be submitted via paper airplane, which I thought added a nice aviation theme to the whole thing. And most importantly, mulch neutrality is now protected speech under the Pine Hollow Villas community guidelines. Gloria tried one last desperate move. She threatened to sue the HOA for wrongful termination, claiming she couldn't be removed from an elected position without cause. That's when our community lawyer, who had been watching the whole saga with barely concealed amusement, stood up and reminded everyone that harassing a neighbor onto an airplane and causing a flight delay that cost the airline thousands of dollars was, in fact, cause. More than cause, actually. It was potentially criminal. The airline had already sent Gloria a letter banning her from flying with them ever again. They were also considering pursuing her for the costs associated with the delay her tantrum had caused. The sum they quoted was $23,000. Gloria's face when she heard that number was a thing of beauty. She went pale, then green, then a sort of grayish color I'd only seen in turbulence-affected passengers. Her mouth opened to protest, but no words came out. She sank into her chair like a deflated balloon, finally understanding that her reign as the terror of Pine Hollow Villas was over. The lawyer continued, explaining that she could also face federal charges for interfering with a flight crew, which carried potential fines of up to $250,000 and up to 20 years in federal prison. Gloria fainted. Actually fainted, right there in the community center, her laminated HOA badge clattering to the floor beside her.